Hello, I'm Ruben and welcome to this week's Samplecast. First off, huge apologies, last week there was no show, but you did get a newsletter version of the show. I'll be doing that from time to time when I am just way too busy. I'm very sorry about that, but I'm back again this week. This is a huge show this week, just to make up for the lack of video shows and podcasts last week. We've got a review of Rob Papen's RP Verb 2. There's loads of bargains, loads of updates. We've also got a really nice freebie, and let's kick off with this week's news. Dan Graham's team continue their sound design odyssey into the very specific sub-genre of sound design drops and downers. So if you've ever used any of his Sculptor instruments before, then you'll know what to expect with Sculptor Epic Drops. These are expertly crafted sound design samples bundled into a versatile engine with lots of options to tweak them. Now this one's in the full version of Contact 5.6.8 and above. It includes 79 presets, and Time and Space did send this to me for a play, so thank you very much guys. I have to say that it's as flexible as all of the other Gothic instruments libraries. I do kind of wish that they'd sort out the preset MKVI file system so that you don't have to keep loading different ones to audition them, but that's just a small niggle. Also, don't you think that the interface looks kind of like an upside down audio Imperia logo? That was a bit odd, I thought. However, getting onto the features, the randomization is a nice touch for instant inspiration, and you can easily thicken up the sounds using the super button. I do also love that the tempo syncing full time feature is useful for syncing the drop lengths to specific bar lengths in your DAW. That's really handy. There are discounts available for existing Gothic instruments owners, so do check out this library at the Time and Space website. Next up, Eon by Cinetools. This is available exclusively through Loopmasters, and it's a new library that explores a darker side of sound effects and hybrid scoring. It's a huge 23 gigabytes in size. You've got over 1,000 organic soundscapes, drones, ambiances, and lots more as well. The collection is divided up into well-managed groups with genre themes, and all the samples have been recorded at 24-bit and 96 kHz. I was very impressed overall by the demos, which tend to steer away from the usual kind of synth-based hybrid shenanigans and lean more towards processed field recordings and more organic sounds. I definitely say that you need to check this one out. Do follow the link in the show notes to take you to Eon. Well, this one appeared from seemingly nowhere, didn't it? Strikeforce Cinematic Percussion is not a product that I'd had on my radar, but if you head over to the website of Laboratory Audio, you'll see loads of endorsements from AAA composers, so admittedly that did make me sit up and take notice. I really don't know much about the team behind this library, except that composers Thor Law and Tobias Enhaus, I hope I'm pronouncing those correctly, they're involved, and really the sounds are pretty good. The interface is pretty innovative with a precise round-robin selection tool. You've got microphone mixing in there as well, and different ensemble sizes ranging from solos to full ensembles. Strikeforce is 43 gigabytes uncompressed, and there's 129 different Contact instruments here. It runs in the free Contact player 5.6.8 and above, and there are simply way too many different drums and articulations to explain here, so do head to the website to check it all out. And if any of you do end up picking it up, do let me know what you think of it. I reviewed Cinematic Studio Strings this time last year, and since then it's really been a big hit. I always see people commenting on Facebook about it, on forums as well. So Alex and the rest of the team behind it have taken their philosophy behind that library and applied it to solo and first chair violins, viola and cello. And this is a new collection, Cinematic Studio Solo Strings. The interface and articulations are basically the same, so it should integrate quite easily into your workflow if you're already using Studio Strings ensembles. Now this runs in the Contact player, and there are discounts available for existing Cinematic Strings owners. The video walkthroughs and audio demos are especially well put together, I thought, and there's plenty of them, so do check them out if you're interested. Audio Imperia have been plugging this new guitar collection for a few weeks, and it's finally released. This is Trailer Guitars 2, and it contains 34 patches for the full version of Contact 5.6.8 and above, and it's just over 7 gigabytes in size. The sounds here are mostly based on electric guitar riffs and atmospheres, and I did like that you've got full mixers and stems available on different keys of the keyboard. The interface is also very inspiring with a kind of steampunk design. Most of the straight up guitar patches have a very aggressive sound, but I do also like the atmospheres and ambient drones. You've also got playable guitar patches in there, and these have a whole different interface with onboard effects, filters and more. The video walkthrough is very informative, it really explains well what the library is all about, so do check it out over the Audio Imperia website. So it's time for this week's bargains, and first up, the Shreddage bundle from Impact Soundworks. These libraries have been featured in some of my own production music work over the years, and right now the entire bundle is available via audio plugin deals. So you get 4 Shreddage guitar libraries plus 2 mystery libraries. Now I actually do know what these mystery treats are, but sadly I am sworn to secrecy. Suffice to say, I don't think you'll be disappointed with them. The whole collection is 12GB in size, and the guitars are compatible with Contact Player. Do check the link in the show notes to get this bundle for just $99. Next up, Textures and Traveller Aurus from Audio Imperia. In total, this bundle is over 5GB in size and mostly contains atmospheres, cinematic textures and organic soundscapes. You know the score with this kind of collection by now. What really sets this Audio Imperia product apart is that the sound quality is very nice and the interfaces are very usable. I also like that the sounds run in both the full version of Contact 5.5.2 and above, and they're included as standalone WAVs as well. You can just drag and drop those into your DAW, that's really handy. Now, let's be honest here, Audio Imperia products are quite often discounted, but seldom as heavily as this, and at the moment you can catch this bundle for 60% off. It's just €69. There's more details at the link in the show notes. It's September, so there's a special offer for the new school year and for students via Vienna. They're offering all students and educational institutions 40% off on all Vienna products. They've also released a discounted scoring bundle which includes Vienna MIR Pro 24 and their reverb package as well, plus a range of their most popular cinematic scoring instruments. Do head to the link in the show notes for full details. And one last mention this week for Resona and Mountains, 2 libraries from Sound Aesthetic Sampling, available via Contact Hub. For the next couple of weeks you can get these 2 packs for 50% off. Mountains is just £4 and Resona is £12, so they're well worth looking into. This week's freebie is a rather nice compression plugin, and I'll tell you a little story about how I came across it. So I was randomly browsing Facebook, as you do, for hours and hours every day, and composer Grant Borland posted a rather cool blog about his favourite percussion libraries that he uses for trailer music. Now, it's a really good read. I'd recommend that you have a look. There's a link in the show notes. But at the end of his article, he did recommend that he uses a free compressor on his percussion, and it's called TDR Kotelnikov, I think that's right, and it's made by Tokyo Dawn Records. So I checked it out and I was pretty impressed by the sound. The compression itself is pretty transparent. It's got a kind of a digital edge which adds a nice bite to percussion, and it's available for pretty much all formats in Mac and PC. And you can find the link in the show description, so thanks to Grant for posting about that. Do check it out yourself. Take it back to where we started. This week's big review is RP Verb 2 from Rob Papen. Time and Space sent this to me. Do check it out at the Time and Space website. Now, Rob Papen has made a name for himself over a couple of decades of plugin and synth development, and the original RP Verb came out about 8 years ago. It's definitely time for an update with RP Verb 2. This runs in all major plugin formats for Mac and PC. It costs about $150, and previous owners of the plugin RP Verb 1 are eligible for a discount upgrade, which is about $39. This is a reverb plugin with a hell of a lot of options. Normally when I review plugins, I talk a little about the signal path, what it actually does to the signal. Well, with RP Verb 2, it's a little bit tricky as a lot of the modules can be reordered to your liking. For example, you can put the EQ section before or after the reverb, and pretty much all of the modules you can switch around like that. So before I delve in too deeply, let's have a little listen to a few audio examples of the hundreds of presets that are available, and I'll adjust the wet-dry ratio and play with a few knobs as they play so you can hear what RP Verb 2 is doing.
And it comes to 2 to the 3 and 4, 4, 4, 4, 1. And it comes to 2 to the 3 and 4, 4, 4, 4, 1. And it comes to 2 to the 3 and 4. And it comes to 2 to the 3 and 1. And it comes to 2 to the 3 and 4, 4, 4, 4.
Oh, how do you know how you will feel when everything changes?
Let's talk about the interface first. Some modules have been retained from previous version of the plugin, such as the ensemble mode, the early and late reflections, envelope controls and EQ. And some sections have been expanded, so you've got new distortion modes here, tempo syncing of late reflections and pre-delay, and you've got overhauled reverb algorithms as well. Brand new is the visual display, which shows the new reverse reverb function. This reverse reverb is a very cool new feature that records the reverb and reverses it, providing everything from a subtle slapback effect to full-on reversed, washed-out soundscapes. And this feature is one of my favourite effects of RP Verb 2. It sounds great on vocals, instantly making vocal takes sound like you've done a lot of manual tweaking, whereas actually all you've done is press a couple of buttons in the plugin. I also really like the new reverb spaces, there's plenty of those, and the new distortion modelling as well. The distortion sounds particularly nice when applied to the attack portion of basses and drums. It gives the transients a bit more crunch, it's something I really liked. There's a few niggles with this library. First off, I did experience a couple of crashes when flicking quickly through the presets. It really didn't like me doing that, but otherwise RP Verb 2 was pretty stable. I could comfortably run about 7 or 8 instances of the plugin with all the modules activated before my system started to fall over, slow down and stutter. That's on a quad-core 4 GHz machine. I don't think that's really too bad, to be honest, as there's a lot of processing going on under the hood in RP Verb 2. In real life, I'd probably just use 1 or 2 instances as sends. One other little annoyance that I did find is I would have liked to have been able to keep my wet-dry ratio settings when flicking through the presets, as I couldn't work out whether this was really possible or not. Having said that, all the presets do have 2 versions, one that is completely 100% wet and one that is a mix of wet and dry, so that might help you out. In conclusion, I did enjoy my time experimenting with RP Verb 2. I'd say that on the most part it's useful for beefing up percussion parts and on vocal lines to get that clever reversed effect that permeates most pop music these days. It's also really great for synth and lead lines where the ensemble and distortion functions do come into their own. The sound has very much a digital edge, so this might not be your first choice for natural acoustic or orchestral music. However, tweaking the settings in real time really pays off, and you can create some excellent sound design noises if you put the time in and learn exactly what all the controls do. I used to think that the original RP Verb 1 was a bit overpriced for what it was, but this version 2 adds so many nice new features that the price isn't too hard to swallow. And if you've already got RP Verb 1, I'd definitely upgrade if I were you. Thanks to Time and Space for sending me a copy of this. Do check out RP Verb 2 at the Time and Space website for more information. A couple of fab developer updates for you this week, and the first one is a really huge one. It's Vintage Vault 2 from UVI. Now UVI have really been kind of churning out these individual vintage synth instruments for over the last year or so, the last couple of years actually, and I've covered several in past episodes of the show. This week a new compilation brings all of these libraries and new ones together under the banner of Vintage Vault 2, and this is quite simply a gargantuan collection of 50 instruments. You've got 111 drum machines and there's over 7,000 presets in total. This runs in the UVI player or Falcon, and there's a big saving to be had here. If you bought them all individually it'd be very expensive, but if you buy this collection you save over $2,000. For a more detailed look at the functionality, do have a look at some of my older Samplecast reviews of Digital Sensations 2 and UVS 3200, which are included as part of this collection. And for more information on the whole shebang, do head to the link in the show notes. Another update that's worth considering is Versilian Studio's budget-priced chamber orchestra collection. Now, I've featured them before in the show and I've been mightily impressed by the realistic sounds with this library. It's got a pretty small RAM and hard drive footprint as well, so the sort of sounds that you can get out of this kind of small collection are pretty impressive. New to version 2.6, this now runs in the Contact Player library tab, so you can get it into your libraries without having to use the full version of Contact. It also contains 160 new snapshot presets, and it's well worth looking into if you want a kind of keenly priced small footprint chamber collection. This is the section of the show where I take something that's perhaps been overlooked, a library or a collection, and really give it the exposure it deserves. And this week it's the entire collection really from MK6 Audio. It's something that's been flying under the radar, and it's a relatively new company. They've released about 9 libraries now. They're definitely worth looking into. Now, I came across them because I was looking for a kind of ethereal piano library, and I had a listen to their library called Infinite Grand, and it just sounded lovely. It was something that I was very interested in. So after having a listen to that and some more demos for their other libraries, I must say I was pretty impressed. All the instruments here are quite small, they're reasonably priced, and they really all fall into a very kind of specific niche. Do have a look at the MK6 Audio website. They're not paying me to say this, it's just a personal plug. I do think the instruments are well worth your time. Thanks so much for watching this episode of the Samplecast. I realised it was a long one. I wasn't here last week, so what the hell. Do also check out the new playlists on YouTube. You've got one for tips and tricks, which has recently been added to, and one for all of the freebies that I featured over the last couple of years. And I will see you again next week. Bye bye now.